Chapter 7 Commentaries from Family and Friends. Rene was asked by several family members why he did not talk about some of the good things in his life. He answered, saying, "This book is about the things I did that were wrong. I do not want to paint a pretty picture. How am I going to make an impact on others if I talk about the good stuff?" We as a family wanted to share some positive things about Rene because he would never brag about himself or say anything to make himself look good. The purpose of the commentaries are not intended to deflect from the reality of Rene's life because his choices do not need defending. His life was not wasted, nor did he live it in vain. During his interview, he did say, "Now that I am clean from all the drugs and alcohol, I realize that I was always a good person. I always had it in me. I just didn't know it then. The drugs would not let me see the real me." Yoli Martinez's sister said, "I remember my big brother Rene showing me how to operate my new toys when I was a little girl. When my toys broke down, I would ask him to fix them for me. He always did. I have very fond memories of my brother helping me and being there for me." Michelle Martinez, niece, age 10. "Wow, I have a lot of memories about my Uncle Rene. My favorite times are when he would cheer me up when I was sad. He would make me laugh, and I would feel better when he would make a sound with his finger in his mouth. It sounded like a big pop. I love you." Betty Gonzalez's sister. "Through all of life's ups and downs, we, your family, have always loved you and stood by you. I thank you for all the good times filled with love and laughter. Big brother, you will forever live in my heart." Graciela Munoz Ledo, mother. "I recall when Rene was about 15 years old. He had decided he was going to work for a company that sold unbreakable glass Corning ware. His job was to be a door-to-door salesman. He had just completed his training and he offered to give the family a demonstration. He opened the box and took out a large serving platter. He began by saying that the platter had a 20-year guarantee because it was unbreakable. He told us that to prove this, he would provide us with a demonstration. So he hit the platter against the corner of the kitchen table, and it instantly shattered into pieces. I still remember his shocked facial expression like it was yesterday. His mouth hung open and froze in disbelief. All of us broke into uncontrollable laughter. He finally cracked a smile and joined us in the laughter. I think that was the end of that job." Rosalia Rosie Munoz de la Coba's sister. That's me. "One day, Rene was about 17 years old, and my mother proudly shared with me how happy she was that Rene was interested in nurturing flowers and plants. She showed me the plants he was growing and said that sometimes he would forget to water it. She would help him by watering it herself. She said she didn't want the poor plant to die. I told her that it looked like marijuana plant to me. My mom was so disgusted that she went straight to the trash can and threw it away. When I graduated from high school, I had to complete an application packet for college. I decided I would select a career that would be of service to others. I felt sad and frustrated that I could not help my family with my brother's Rene's problems. Because of Rene, I became a probation officer, a social worker, a marriage family psychotherapist, and a school counselor. I truly believe that for every unfortunate situation that occurs, something positive comes out of it. Thank you, Rene, for helping me to mold my life and for helping me to set a successful direction for my life's path. Because of you, I have facilitated hundreds of families and their children with their life's challenges." Ricky Martinez, nephew. "I could recite some very funny stories, but that's not what I remember and miss the most about my Tío Rene. When I was really Ricky Sanchez nephew. I could recite some very funny stories, but that's not what I remember and miss the most about my Tio Rene. What I really remember the most is the thing that happened on a daily basis in our relationship. He was the type of person who was able to get along with everyone. He was very polite and he always offered to help others. If he went to the store, he would always ask if anyone needed something. His personality was similar to that of a host. This is the best way to describe him. You would definitely notice this about him if you were a guest in his house. He had to have a routine every morning, which I thought was ridiculous since he didn't have much to do. I would always make fun of him. Got to have that routine in your home? He would get up every day starting at 8 a.m., which with his morning coffee. If he didn't, it didn't matter what time he went to bed the previous night. It would be so funny because sometimes he would go to sleep at 5 a.m. after playing pool all night, and he would still get up like a zombie to drink his morning coffee at exactly 8 a.m. He would usually straighten out his room and then go back to sleep. However, he would first take his morning commute, use the bathroom. He would always say how commute sounded like taking a crap. So going to the restroom each morning was part of his daily routine. My cousin Eddie and I loved making fun of almost everything Tio Rene said. It was just so funny because he couldn't hear very well. When we would tell him that he said something wrong, he would say that it was because he was bilingual. Usually, we didn't like correcting him because we wouldn't be able to laugh when he said it wrong. I know that this sounds mean, but he said some really funny things. For instance, if I left my cup of water on the floor and he tripped over it, he would say, "You movie trapped me, Holmes," instead of booby trapped. There were plenty of other phrases he got confused about, but it's hard to remember them all. He really was a non-stop comic. Sometimes I think he knew we were laughing at him, and he spoke that way deliberately. We would always talk about how getting married would complicate our lives and how we lived so stress-free. We both had been married and had fought a lot with our spouses, so we had no desire to live that way anymore. The environment we were trying to create was one of peace and relaxation. I would come home from work or school and the house would be clean. My uncle would be there waiting for me and say, "What's up, dog? There's a plate for you in the fridge." He would always make dinner for me and sometimes lunch. I would buy the food and he would cook it. We had a relationship that was similar to a marriage, only it seemed a whole lot better. We lived together for about 6 or 7 years. I only remember arguing with him 4 or 5 times during that time we lived together. I'm sure he was angry with me more times than that and I with him, but things were not that big of a deal. The last few years together, we didn't argue at all. We had become accustomed to each other. He would always say, "They should come out with a TV show called The Professor and the Ex-Con. I would be the professor and he would be the ex-con. I guess it would be a good idea." In a lot of ways, we made up for each other's deficiencies, and I think that's what made our relationship work so well. We both needed each other for numerous reasons. We spoke of this many times. I think he felt like he was being somewhat of a father to me, and I think his obligations to me gave him a purpose. He would always say that the reason he was here was to help me. He had a lot of mixed feelings about his reasons to live. I needed him the most to teach me how to interact with family and with other people. I was never good at this. However, now I feel competent. If it were not for my Uncle Rene, I don't think my relationship with my kids or the rest of my family would be as good. He really did help me figure out what's important in life. During this past summer, when he saw me with my kids, he told me he was very proud of me. I am very grateful that I had the opportunity to live with him. It was one of the most and the best periods of my life. We had a lot of good times together. To sum it up, life for me will never be the same. I am not just saying all this because he passed away. Life with my uncle was great about 85% of the time. The other 15% of the time, he was just having too much fun and hurting himself in the long run. Sometimes I had to interfere and put a stop to his self-abuse. Michael Reese nephew. When I think of my Tío René, I think of his funny personality. He would always make a joke about everything. It didn't matter what the situation was. He would always keep cool. He was an inspiration to me because he made people feel better about themselves with his positive sense of humor. When I was a little boy, Tío René lived with us. I would tell my mom, "Mama, Mama, wipe my butt," when I was being toilet trained. I am now a grown man, but every time I would see him, he would still say to me, "Mama, Mama, wipe my butt." He would always make me laugh. He taught me not to take life so seriously. Gabriel Rawling, a friend. This morning after Renee had died, Rosalia called me to tell me her brother had died. I told her that I already knew this. I told her that he went quickly and peacefully. I saw him when he died. He appeared in a white gown. There were 2 men waiting to greet him. The 2 men stood at each side of him. One man was Renee's father. The other person was a man who was a friend of his and who had been shot and killed. I did not know who this man was. The 3 of them created a triangle of light as they went through the tunnel of light to God. Renee told me to give the following message to you. Tell my family I am happy and peaceful, and that I send everyone my love and my peace. If they feel pain and peace at the same time, know that I am sending them my peace to console them. Later, Rosalia told me that she had spoken to her sister Betty about who the other man was who came with Renee's father. Betty said it must have been Little Man, because Renee stayed by his side and helped him the night he died at the drive-by gang shooting at the party in Rosemead. Lily Munoz Ledo's sister. I recall Renee calling me at work many times, but he didn't speak for a long time because he knew I was busy working. He would call to ask me if I wanted to go over his house to watch a sport game on TV. We were always talking about sports. I guess I was like the brother he never had. At the end of our conversation, he would say, "Well, I'll call you next week and let's do lunch. Ta-ta." He made me laugh. I loved his sense of humor. Eddie Madrid Jr. nephew. My Tío René was like a father to me, especially after his dad, my grandpa, passed away. My mom Lily would take me to Tío René's house after school to take care of me. He would let me know when I was going the wrong way and steer me towards the right direction. I want to thank him for all the advice he had given me for the past years. I got a message from a friend after Tío René died. I was told that Tío René said everything was going to be okay and that he knew that work was slow for me. He said that I just have to keep moving ahead and that I have done this before and that I could do it again. I had not talked to this friend for a long time, and she knew all the stuff. I never told Tío René that my job was slow. He would ask me how things were going before he passed away, and I would say fine. I lied. I did not want to burden him with my problems. This friend knew everything that no one should know except for my uncle and me. Before this, I never believed in psychics, but I do now. He has to be up there watching me because there is no way anyone would know what she told me. I know now that my Tío René is going to be watching over me, taking care of me and helping me along my way because that's just the kind of man he was. I know when I do something wrong, he'll be there to give me an ass chewing. And when I do something right, he'll be there to give me a pat on the back. I'm going to try to make my uncle proud of me. He taught me to be respectful and have good family values. He would say, "Don't misrespect me, Holmes," instead of disrespect. I love him to death. I feel that Theo Rene wants me to tell my grandma and his sisters, Thea, Rosie, Betty, Yoli, and my mom, thank you for taking care of him while he was sick. He tried to be the best son, father, brother, and uncle he could. Juanita Martinez, a friend, who has now crossed over and is with Rene. I met Rene at Rosalia's birthday beach party on September 6, 2004. Many of us were playing the drums. He was standing in the background watching us. I approached him and asked him if he would like to play the drums with us. He said, "No thanks, it's not my thing." Then he chuckled a little. On December 20, 2004, 18 days after he died, Rene came to me at a memorial drum circle that a group of us friends were having in honor of Rene with Rosie in Laguna Niguel. As I was drumming, he appeared standing next to me and said, "When I was here on earth, I didn't know what this drumming thing was all about. But now that I am on the other side, I understand. Now I understand a lot of things I did not understand before. This drumming thing is a good thing. Tell my mom and Rosie, my sister, to keep on drumming." Alicia Stevens, aunt, sister of Graciela. On October 2003, I flew to visit my sister Graciela from Washington State to be supportive during my nephew Rene's illness. My sister Graciela told me about a women's group near the beach in Southern California where they honor the grandmothers who have died from all over the world. A woman named Sharon McErlane receives spiritual messages from the Grandmothers Council and shares them. She recently wrote a book called A Call to Power, CAAUL. The Grandmothers Speak, published by Author House. The grandmothers refer to themselves as the Great Council of the Grandmothers. The grandmothers tell us they are available to help those who ask for help. After the women's reunion that evening at my sister's home, my sister Graciela, my niece Rosie, and I prayed to the grandmothers to help us to access the necessary strength and stamina we would need to be able to cope with Rene's illness. The following morning, my sister lost $20 and later found it under a towel on the bathroom counter. Rene's chemotherapy pills were lost and later were found under the bed. I was packing to return to Washington, and I was going crazy looking for a dress I needed to pack. I later found it under another dress that was hanging in the closet. It was as though the grandmothers were playing hide and seek with us. Rene, my sister, and I laughed and laughed when all of this happened, and we have continued to laugh about them as we remember those difficult days. We finally figured out the message of the grandmothers were trying to give us. We assumed they were saying, "There is nothing you can do about Rene. He is dying. But you can have fun, laugh, and enjoy each other's company each moment you are together." Humor helped us deal with Rene's illness. Raymond Munoz Ledo, son of Rene, age 16. One thing I'll always remember about my dad is when we used to play pool together. I loved playing every minute with him. So now when I play pool with someone, I play for him. I do my best to be my best. Christopher Munoz Ledo, son, age 9. When I was a little boy, my dad would make me the best breakfast, and that's why I love him. Before my dad died, I wrote him a letter, but I never sent it, and he never read it. But this is the letter I wrote. I sing this song to you because I love you, and I know I'll be there for you when you are hurt or not feeling good because I love you. I always have. You are the best. You love me and I love you so much that every night I cry for my one and only dad. Lisa Marie Munoz Ledo, daughter, age 6. My dad used to call me Doll. He used to call me Mona Lisa. He would tell me to kiss him on the cheek, and I did. Then he would say, "Give me a bigger kiss," and I did. I love you, Dad. I miss you. Diana Sanchez, wife. I fell in love with Rene because he was very loving and affectionate towards me. I also thought he was gorgeous. He was very cuddly, and I loved being loved by him. He always strived to be a good father by spending quality time with the children. He would capture learning opportunities in daily situations to teach the children about life and having good manners. He was conscientious of the fact that he did not want his children following in his footsteps and would verbalize this to the children. He would talk about the value and importance of education and staying in school. His children meant the world to him. Jose Martinez, brother-in-law. I talked to Rene before he died. He was more worried about everyone else in the family than himself. The body dies and disintegrates, but the spirit moves on. The soul never dies. It is sad that he is gone from our sight. I am grateful that his pain has been taken away, and I am happy that he is no longer suffering. I am glad he wrote this book because it helped him come to terms with himself at the end of his life's journey. He became a strong, powerful, and spiritual person because of this process. This book has some very heavy stories and messages, and it tells the truth. His destiny was to touch a lot of kids through this book, and I know it will help them. Roberto Nunez, a friend who is or was in prison. Dear Rosalia, hi Rosie, how are you doing? Well, I hope everything is good for you, and when this letter finds you, it finds you in the best of care and health. Well, I received your letter and your brother's book. Thank you very much for sending your brother's book to me. It's a very good book, and I like it because of everything he was saying. It felt like he was telling my lifestyle. There's a lot of things that I have been through that your brother has been through. And as I was reading, I felt what he was feeling at that moment because I know how it is. It is not easy. And I am not the only one that liked it. A lot of people here read it too. And it's been passed around in 2 prisons already, Wasco and Evanel. People enjoy it. It even touches the lives of a killer and a lifer. It makes them think too. I am going to try to put it in the library here. I also wanted to thank you for taking your time and writing me, because a lot of people look at us as different and don't want to write to an inmate or a gangster. But Rosie, you understand me. Thank you. Well, sorry I took so long to get back to you, but they've been moving me like crazy, and I barely got supplies. So here I am in your hands. It's better late than never. Well, I'm going to let you go for now, so take good care of yourself. So, Rosie, I'm going to cut this. Be right back if you like to. I'm out of paper meets pen again. Well, with all my respect, I am sorry about your brother. May he rest in peace. Dr. Bill Beecham. Renee's powerful message of the devastation of addiction and disease is a bombshell of a book. It's hard reading and doesn't pull any punches. As you read the words of Renee, you're given a visual and heart-wrenching depiction of the pain, sorrow, and the awakening of the human spirit, and it reaches out and touches our soul. This is not an easy read, but informative and inspirational. While reading Renee's memoirs, I was reminded of the old Native American grandfather who was talking with his grandchild about life, and he says, "There is a fight going on inside of me. It is a terrible fight, and it's between 2 wolves. One is the evil and dark side of me. He is anger, sorrow, envy, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other wolf is good and light. He is love, peace, joy, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathetic, generous, truthful, compassionate, hope, and faith. The same fight is going in you, little one, and in every other person too. The grandchild thought about it for a moment and then asked his grandfather, "Which wolf will win, grandfather?" And the grandfather simply replies, "The one you feed." Rene fed his dark, evil side for a long time and then realized the gift of life and how precious and vulnerable we all are. We believe that life shrinks or expands in direct proportion to one's courage. Rene lived a courageous life and now helps all of us find our own individual courage to change. Rene fought the good fight and paid the ultimate price, and now he has left a legacy for all of us to learn from and enrich our lives. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. Dr. Bill Beecham, Executive Director of Drug-Free Communities, former Director of Training Clinical Services, and works with the U.S. Olympic Committee. Thank you, Rosalia, for the opportunity. I am humbled by you and your family. Bill.
Michael Ruiz's nephew. When I think of my Tío Rene, I think of his funny personality. He would always make a joke about everything. It didn't matter what the situation was, he would always keep his cool. He was an inspiration to me because he made people feel better about themselves with his positive sense of humor. When I was a little boy, Tío Rene lived with us. I would yell for my mom, "Mama, mama, wipe my butt," when I was being toilet trained. I'm now a grown man, but every time I would see him, he would say the same thing to me. "Mama, mama, wipe my butt." He would always make me laugh. He taught me not to take life so seriously. I love you, Tío Rene.
How to use this book. Share this book with someone you know that may benefit from learning about Rene's life. Pass it on. Schools, rehabilitation, treatment centers, churches, and counseling groups can incorporate discussion sessions, oral presentations, written essay assignments, role play scenarios, compose a song, a poem, or a drama script, expressive arts. There are many resources available in your community. Toll-free Alcoholics Anonymous 800-923-8722. Teachers may refer to the following educational codes. Education Code 51260. Students shall receive instruction by appropriately trained instructors about the nature and effects of alcohol and other drugs on individuals, families, and communities, including dangerous drugs defined by Health and Safety Code 11032. Education Code 51260. Effective teaching skills and competency in helping students to express opinions responsibly and to become aware of their values as they affect drug and use decisions. Education Code 51203, 51260. At all grade levels, instruction should include a study of the effects and consequences of alcohol and other drugs upon the human system. Education Code 51260. Education shall be sequential in nature and suited to meet the needs of students at their respective grade level regarding substance abuse and alcohol. About the author. Rene completed 11 years of education in his lifetime. He was held back in school and he had to repeat the 3rd grade. He dropped out of high school at age 17. He learned to read and write at a federal correctional institution. He successfully achieved a 7th grade education level of reading. He decided to share his life story with the world instead of confessing his actions to a priest, leaving all his secrets untold. To him, the thought of writing a book seemed impossible until he began to try. Initially, he agreed to dictate his life's events into a tape recorder. However, each time he tried, he broke down crying, stating, "I just can't get the words out." Then he forced himself to start writing. He spelled 90% of the words phonetically, and many of the words were transposed. The prescribed medications for the liver cancer probably had an influence on his writing skills. However, there is also the possibility that he might have had some type of learning challenges from an early age that was never diagnosed. We will never really know. He was never tested at a school system. Writing became very difficult for him because he started to experience blurred vision. He returned to using the tape recorder, this time with more confidence and self-assurance. He had broken through some of the painful barriers. His liver cancer was diagnosed in August of 2003. At that time, the doctors recommended a new experimental chemotherapy, which he tried for 2 months. However, the side effects from the chemotherapy were worse than the symptoms of the cancer. When he realized that chemotherapy was not the cure, he decided to discontinue it. During the last 2 months of his life, he had severe pain and suffered a lot. Dr. Joanne Coleman, a book coach and friend of the family, suggested that he interview and be made of Renee about this book. In mid-October 2003, he eagerly prepared for the interview with Dr. Coleman and video photographer Doug Lahan. Renee had a goal, a drive, and a mission to complete his book. He said for the first time in his life he felt he had value and more meaning to his life. After every nap several times in a 24-hour period, when his strength was at the highest peak, he passionately dictated the final chapter, completing the enactment of his memoirs. Renee said that he should have died many times in his life, but he didn't. He believed that it was his divine purpose to stay alive to write this book. He accomplished this by his strong conviction that by sharing his life story with others, the future would see many miracles of lives that would be saved. About the ghost author. Dr. Rosalia Munoz de Cova received her PhD in alternative and complementary medicines. Her dissertation focused on stress management using hypnosis and meditation as interventions. She has been a licensed marriage family therapist since 1986, holding a BBS certification in hypnotherapy. She is a full-time school counselor with a part-time private practice in South Orange County. She has taught at several community colleges, teaching KDAC certification programs for alcohol and drug use for people who want to be counselors. She is a former juvenile probation officer and has been a social worker and behavioral specialist for the California Regional Centers for the Developmentally Disabled. The Orange County Human Relations Council recognized her work within the civil rights movement on tolerance and diversity as a conflict mediator. Rosalie is an optimist, a mentor, and inspiration to young people. Her favorite saying is, "When one door closes, another door will open." She enjoys drumming, taking pride in honoring her ancestors from the Purépecha heritage from Michoacán, Mexico. She is a member of the World Divine Light Organization as a spiritual volunteer. She follows the teachings of the Buddhist philosophy. The love of her life are her 2 children, Aaron and Melissa. Renee told his sister, "Wouldn't it be cool if someone made a movie about my life?" Well, Rosalia did make a movie. The name of it is Forgive Me. Renee has been a silent mentor and tremendous inspiration in her life, and for this she is eternally grateful. Disneyland Memorial Brick. Gloria Pedersen shared with Rosalia that her family had recently purchased a memory brick for her deceased father at Disneyland. I thought what a wonderful idea for Renee. We were planning a summer beach party for all the family's birthdays in July 2004. So I decided to present this idea to and request a monetary donation of $150 from the family. Renee's little girl Lisa had asked me if we would be celebrating her father's birthday even though he was not here. I said, certainly. Wow, how perfect can this be? We will offer the brick as a birthday gift to Renee at the family beach party. I wanted to make it special and introduce the idea creatively, but I was not sure how I was going to do this. The morning before the beach party, I woke up singing It's a Small World After All. It's a small world after all, the entire day. Then it hit me like a ton of bricks. I'll play the song, It's a Small World, when I tell everybody about the Disneyland brick. The next time you go to Disneyland, the Munoz Ledo family invites you to walk by Renee's Memorial Brick, located at C67 star 387, and to share his story with your friends and family. Endorsements for this book. Winner of the 15th Annual Carl Sandburg Literacy Arts Award for Nonfiction, Luis J. Rodriguez, author of Always Running, La Vida Loca, Gang Days in LA, states, Rene Munoz Ledo was a homeboy of mine, and like many of my homeboys, he ended up in the dark end of a long gang and drug life. But he also had a loving family and a loving heart, and along the way he found a pathway to the Creator. In the end, these were the things that won out. This is evident in this book, a testimony to the resilience and strength Rene had even through his darkest days. I honor his commitment and contribution to live richly even with the hardships and to tell the tale. There's healing there for all of us. I know his words will reach out and save many lives. Dr. Ron Dempsey. Dr. Ron Dempsey, retired Executive Director for Pupil Services in San Juan Capistrano Unified School District. In this intensely personal account of his descent into the quagmire of drugs and crime, and then his long struggle to redeem himself and find peace in his heart, Rene Munoz Ledo proves himself to be one of those everyday heroes whose struggle we need to recognize and celebrate. Not an eloquent or well-educated writer, Rene has compensated for what he may have lacked in literacy style by opening his soul for the world to see the man inside. His deathbed wish was that the sharing of his story would spare others the pain he endured before attaining a final peace. After reading his story, you will find yourself saying, I wish I had the chance to meet Rene.